With the landmark decision in the High Court saying that the NHS can actually fund PrEP, a preventative medication that actually helps to prevent HIV infection, I popped along to the Terrence Higgins Trust in Brighton just to find out how easy it is to get tested and what it's actually going to mean if this medication becomes available to people. So what's the decision about PrEP actually mean for HIV prevention?
We're incredibly relieved about the decision today to make PrEP available on the NHS and that the NHS should be responsible for funding it. It means that people who are most at risk of contracting HIV now have another way to prevent that transmission from happening.
So what would you say to the people that say that this is a preventative drug and that condoms can do the job in exactly the same way?
Absolutely, you can have the same effect from condom use, and we would certainly encourage people to continue using condoms. However, we have to look at the reality of the situation, and around 6,000 people each year are becoming HIV positive. So that means that condoms aren't working in entirety.
How easy is it for people to get tested in Brighton?
In Brighton and Hove, we're incredibly lucky. You could go and get HIV test 7 days a week at a clinic, somewhere like us at Terrence Higgins Trust or at the Brighton Hove Sexual Health and Contraceptive Service. People can also do home testing as well. And one of the things that we've seen since Prince Harry was tested, there was a massive increase in people signing up to a pilot scheme that we had where tests were being sent out to people's homes. They could test in the comfort of their own home and get their result and see their result in 15 minutes. There's a real dichotomy of people that should test, and there's a real diversity in how people can test, whether it's face-to-face, people come into a clinic like here and they get to speak to somebody.
So who should actually get tested?
It's really important that anyone that considers that they have a risk factor in terms of contracting HIV gets tested on a regular basis. It's behaviour that determines risk. So if it's around sexual behaviour or intravenous drug use, for example, but if people aren't necessarily changing sexual partners, for example, then there's no need for people to test on a regular basis. It's always about being aware of your behaviour and how that might determine any risk.
So James, what do you think that this decision about PrEP actually means for the LGBT community?
It's only been made this morning, first look, and so I'm going to have to look at all the details myself. But right from the start, I was under the impression that this drug was going to be made available to the high-risk groups. The Department of Health had a regular meeting with key people in the country to be part of a steering group, and I was very surprised when they said no. And to me, it didn't make any sense at all, because long term, this is going to save the health service a lot of money. And I think that we all have a right to access to that type of drug if it's going to stop people from catching HIV.
Do you think that the political landscape of the country and society has changed so that people actually really care about what happens to LGBT people nowadays?
The decision to say no, which is basically what they did a few months ago, was indicative of how the old government, I mean, people talk about the Thatcher government in the, in the 80s. My lasting memory of that whole period was that we had a health minister, Norman Fowler, that actually understood the issue. And I think it's really disappointing that 25 years on, they seem to have forgotten about the previous public health campaign in the 80s, which I still think was successful, no matter what people say about it.